Hello everyone, in this tutorial I'll be teaching you how to download my HUD, or commonly known as Mr. Fancy's HUD or MFA's HUD. I have had a few people like my HUD, and the problem is they are a couple of files that need installing for this HUD. So in this tutorial that should teach them, and for anyone who is interested. Along with my HUD, I will be providing my config files, hit sounds, and other various things. So let's get straight into it. The first thing we should start off with is the configs, which you shall download. The links to all of these will be in the description. Once you have the file open, you'll want to locate to your Team Fortress 2 files, which you can do by opening up File Explorer, going to Windows, Program Files, 86, Steam Apps, Common, and of course Team Fortress 2. Now personally, I have this shortcutted to my desktop, as you can see right here. You can choose to do that. I know that I will be regularly going to that file to edit the files that are needed. But for the sake of this tutorial, I thought I would show you where the file is. After you've reached the correct folder, just drag and drop the CFG right into the TF folder. Now that you've done that, you will see all the files that I use. Please note that all the commands that I use are not all in the auto exec, as they are a lot of them are in the config files. In the auto exec, there are a lot of graphic commands that I use to make sure that I get at least a decent amount of FPS, as I am running on a pretty old laptop. However, I do use some commands that are non-graphic related. Right here is Scoreboard. So basically what this does is whenever I press tab, it will show a net graph of what my FPS and ping is. I find this very useful, as it makes it so that I don't always see the net graph, and it's only when I press tab, and it's pretty useful for me. Next we have the null movement script. If you haven't tried this out already, I recommend doing so. It's a very useful script for those who hate stopping when holding down like two keys at this different times. So if I were to press A and D, I wouldn't just immediately stop. I would keep going the way that it would just override the command. Next, I have my class selection script, which basically makes it so whenever I press the keys on the numpad, I will join each of these classes. So KP end would be number 1, KP down arrow would be number 2, and so on and so forth. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for each, and so on for each class. If you're running on a Mac, you probably won't be able to use this. I don't believe a lot of Macs do have the numpad, but generally if you're running on Windows or whatever, you should be able to, you should have a numpad. The next thing after my class script is the load item preset, which basically means whenever I press the 0 or the dot on my numpad, I will load the A loadout on my the class, or my B loadout. I've often thought about adding C and D to it, but I suffice with just the A and B. Next we have the view model FOV commands. These are located on the arrow keys. Basically, view model FOV 90. When I click the up arrow, that will change the FOV to 90. And if I click down arrow, it will change it to view model FOV 60. You can change these numbers to suit your preference, or remove them completely if you choose. Next we have bind right arrow to TF use min view model 0, and the next one is for left arrow is set to 1. Basically, these switch between if I want just the default view models, or if I want the minimal view models. Next I have my crosshair. This doesn't take too much effect on my game because the class scripts already have a crosshair command in them, so that is really not important. Next is map background preload room. That has to do with something else that we'll get into as soon as possible. Now, for my class configs, we'll use the demo man for example. So as you would have seen in the auto exec, I have view model FOV 62. I generally have 62 defaulted to all of them. I sometimes change it if I want a different class to have a different view model size. I also do the same for min view models. I used to use min view models only on a couple of classes, but now I practically use it on all of them. In all of the classes except for the medic, if you press T, the class will say one of his voice lines and will say a particular text into the chat. I've created this one for the demo man. They're not really useful for anything, they're just a bit of a joke. Next we have exec view model on. That corresponds with the file view model on, which basically is a script that keeps the view models on. Basically it's what these little ones that are keeping like the view models on with the combination of all these other commands. If I were to change one of these to 0, that would mean that the view models would turn off. Relating to exec view model on, there is also a file called view model off, which basically changes the numbers that were originally 1 to 0. Basically, this makes it so that the primary is off, the secondary is off, but the melee is on. I find this pretty useful from time to time. However, I have generally kept my view models on all classes, but I still do use this script sometimes. To change it, you would just do back out the N and then put in the 2 Fs to represent off. For the sake of this, I'm gonna keep it on just due to preference. The next one we have is color crosshair and null off. Basically, there was a bit of a problem with the color switching crosshair, as you've probably seen in Stabby's videos or streams where he has a color crosshair. I don't usually use the color crosshair anymore, but I sometimes do. I haven't in a while, but if you're wanting to have that enabled or change the colors for any of these, you would basically just go back out the off and then save as. You can change the colors by changing the numbers to suit your preference. For the sake of this, I'm going to keep view model crosshair plus null off because I don't use it, and it's probably not recommended as those can be pretty distracting. Next we have exec green circle, which is basically a green circle. As you can see here, it is just the crosshair file, so it says crosshair 3, crosshair 32, and so on. I find this very useful as if I just want to change which crosshair it is, as I can also have a green plus file, which I can just change that to plus and it'll do a green plus. But for the sake of this, I'm going to keep it as green circle. This just basically makes it a lot easier so I don't have to change the numbers or any of that. So I find it pretty useful for me. Now another thing that I have in the spy and engineer file, I do use the F1 keys for particular scripts. For the spy, the F1 keys change it so that you disguise to each of the following classes. That's in a combination of this script right here and this script right here. This is a zoom in script. It's currently only set on the spy. You can add it to all the classes. It doesn't really zoom in, it just changes the FOV desired from 70 or to 90 depending on which button you click. I've got it bound to mouse 5. You can choose to whatever you like depending on your mouse or keyboard settings. As I was saying with the spy script, I've also got F1 keys for build and destroy. This can be pretty useful. It's a bit inconsistent, so it's not 100% recommended as the spy script, but I still like using it because it makes building things a lot quicker. Please note, if you are running on a laptop and you're having to hold down FN and the F keys at the same time in game, you may need to go into your operating system or whatever and change it so you only have to hold down just the F keys. Another thing that I have are songs. Basically, these are like the B-movie script. If you open up the console and put exec whatever the song you like, for this sake All-Star, and then press I, it'll basically do the All-Star song or whatever song it is into the chat. This is a bit of a annoying thing. You generally get kicked off the server for that kind of thing, but it's just a bit of a funny thing that I thought you should know about. If you want any of these to work, just drag and drop any of the songs into the CFG folder, like this for example, but I just have them in the songs folder so that they're not taking up too much room for the more important stuff. Please note, for this next step you will need to have a Nvidia driver to do this next step. If you're currently running on AMD or something entirely different, you probably won't need to do this step or won't be capable of doing this step, so it's recommended that you probably skip this step. If you're running on an Nvidia driver, you can download this program to make it so that the matte_filter texture 0 intensifies so much that the textures become really blocky and almost Minecrafty. If you happen to not want these blocky features, you can go down into my config, locate matte filter textures and change that to 1 and save. If you do want these commands, or you do want a bit more significant FPS, I do recommend having that enabled. And yeah, so to download this, we just click the download button. Please note, all Nvidia inspectors aren't quite like this one. This allows the LOD bias to go up to 15, while others generally only allow you to go up to 3. So this is the one that I've put into the description, and it's recommended that you download this one if you want the have a LOD bias of 15. It does work with 3, but you don't get the exact textures that I have. So what you want to do is you'll just want to create a new folder and then just drag and drop those into there, and then once you have that up, open up the Nvidia Inspector, click yes when you want to do changes, and then you will click on this little gear thing right here, and then this box will come up. You want to search for Team Fortress 2. Now your settings may not be the same as mine. There are probably a couple of differences, but the two important things that you'll want to change here is anti-aliasing, transparency, super sampling, and texture filtering LOD bias DX. So you'll click on the drop down box for anti-aliasing, and then go to AA_mode replay_mode_all. Next after that, you want to go to texture filtering LOD bias, and then you'll drop down and go down to 15. Like I said before, if it only allows you to go up to 3, you've probably installed the wrong Nvidia Inspector, and probably it's recommended that you install mine. If that doesn't work, well, I'm out of options, I'm sorry. So you'll want to change that to 15 if you want the exact textures that I have, and then you'll click apply changes. Please note that you may want to click it twice, as the program is a little inconsistent and may not always save changes correctly. Once you've done that, you can close that all, and that is the end to all the config files. The next thing you may want to download is my hit sounds. I use a Quake hit sound and I believe it is a Mario or Sonic kill sound. So you'll just want to download that, and here you will locate the two folders. Now the thing that you'll need to do is you'll need to create a new folder. So by doing that, you'll just want to go right click on the in the TF2 folder, go new folder, and create custom. We'll be using this later for the HUD. Next, we'll want to create another new folder and rename it to my underscore custom underscore stuff. I think you can name it whatever you want, but I preferably do this one. So you open that, and then you will right click and then go new folder again, put in sound, another new folder, UI, and then you'll put two hit sounds and kill sound into here. Another thing that you may want to download is star heal beams. I use this from time to time whenever I'm running on a server that isn't a Valve server. And you can download this by going to Game Banana and going to this particular link. I'll have the link in the description below. So you'll just want to go manual download and then go to download again and install that. Once you've located that, you can go back. You can go into your custom folder, my custom stuff, and then import the materials right here. Another thing that I do like to use is Stabby's old DR animation. This was made by someone who I unfortunately don't know the name of, but it's quite a useful thing and doesn't take up as much room as the normal DR does, and I quite like it. Unfortunately, I didn't add a download link to it at the time this video was made, but I will have a download link in the description for this animation. So what you want to do with that is you'll just want to once again go to your custom, and you can just put that right there. Another thing that I use is as you can see, Yitram's competitive view models. A link to this video on how to install I can't ever pronounce his name, but this guy's competitive view models, a video to this and the TF thread will be in the description. I'm not going to teach you how to install it, but I'll give you that video as I said. But this is what the program looks like currently for me at the time this video was recorded. I did use a few of these, but I just wasn't really happy. They didn't suit my preferences. However, there are a few things that I do use. I do use the hide revolver so that I can still see my dead ringer as without the primary, so I find that pretty useful for me. The other thing that I use is for the engineer, that I have the PDA and the toolbox hidden so that they aren't taking up too much view model space. As you can see right here, they take up a fair bit of space with the default view models on, and although I don't use it because of the scripts, I wouldn't usually see that anyway. I still think it's better not seeing that at all, as well as the toolbox. That's pretty distracting sometimes. So once you've installed that, those are the only two things that I use. You can use whatever you like, but those are the only two that I use personally. So you'll install that, and that'll create a file inside your TF custom folder. Now I've just dragged and dropped the file that I use. for the sake of this video, so you know what it looks like. Please watch that tutorial, as it teaches you how to like properly install the competitive view models, as you will have to go into the your auto exec and add that file. It should be already added if you want to use that. If you don't want to use that, probably go to the CFG auto exec and go down and just get rid of this one file. So now it's time for the HUD that I use. Now I use Toon HUD like as the base of my HUD. I could make my own HUD by scratch if I really wanted to, but when you really think about it, it would get really outdated, and I would have to just keep making my HUD over and over again after every single update, and that would get a bit annoying, and probably wouldn't be worth it. I know some people do it, but I'm not really one of those kinds of people, so I personally don't do that. So what you want to do next is you'll go to search, and the best way to do it is probably go themes and put in Mr. Fancy HUD, and hopefully mine should be the first result. It should say by MFA. The profile picture may not be the same, but it should say this is the HUD that Mr. Fancy Animator in brackets MFA uses. So you'll want to click on that. A link to this will be in the description below if you don't want to search for it. But if the link doesn't work for some odd reason, you can locate it by that. You won't be able to edit these. Only I can edit because I'm still logged in. But you'll just want to download this. After it's installed, you should have the Toon HUD file. Now you'll want to just go back to your custom folder in the Team Fortress folder, and you'll just want to drag and drop there. Now you've installed the base of my HUD, but you may open up TF2 now and think you're all good, and you'll be like, but there's things missing, and that's true, because there are a couple of files that I still use that Toon HUD doesn't provide. So what you'll want to do for the sake of the video is probably rename it to Mr. Fancy HUD. You don't have to do that, but that's just the thing that I like to do so that I know it's my HUD. So this link will be in the description below. You'll download it, and here you'll have all the HUD files. We'll just drag and drop that to the desktop for the sake of convenience, and we'll open that up. The easiest thing that we'll start off with is dropping the files into UI. You can locate to UI by going into Mr. Fancy HUD, Resource, and then in UI. So we'll go into Files to drop into UI. Basically, you'll just drag and drop and drop these all into the UI folder. And you want to go Replace Files in Destination. A link in the description will show a screenshot of what majority of these files do. Now, files to edit. For this case, there are particular files that need editing. Considering we're still in UI, we'll go into the in UI folder first. So the first thing we'll want to look for is HUD Match Status. You can do this by searching HUD Match Status. You'll find it, and then you'll open it up. Bam. So the next thing you want to do is probably open up the HUD Match Status right here. Now, this is what it basically looks like. Now, there's all this stuff, and you may think, well, what am I meant to do with that? Well, basically, this is just a bunch of zeros and things that disables the things that aren't really needed, and I don't think you would need them either. You don't really have to do a lot of these. I just think it makes the match status look a lot better, as it does consume up a lot of, or not a lot, but it consumes up a fair amount of space. So you'll want to go Control F and then look for Death panel. I just put in Death, but you can find it. And basically you'll find it right here, and you'll just want to copy and paste that. You can change all the numbers you want to the zeros, but I think this is the easiest way to do it. Bam. Just back up and save. The next one is skull panel, and that just happens to be right underneath death panel. So you'll just want to do this, and then bam, and save. The next one is class image BG. You may want to be careful with this because you don't want to back out this one, class image. You'll just want to back out this one, class image BG. Then once you've done that, you can save, and that's the end of that. The next one is HUD medic charge. So we'll just look for that. And it's here, it's right here. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to go back to this, go to HUD medic charge, and you'll just probably want to copy paste that. Probably put Control F, put in Uber again, and you should find it right here. Just want to do that, and then Control V, and it's done and saved. Yeah, I basically copy and paste all of these over so that the file is, or this part, those parts are overridden with zeros, so it gets rid of the background or whatever I want it to do. The next one is HUD Tournament Position. This can vary depending on what resolution you run on. I run on a 1280 but times 600. So depending on what resolution you run on, this may differ. But so this may not be entirely correct. But what I do is I just change it to XPOS -384, and I just save that as. If you're running on the normal resolution of your monitor, this may need changing. Just go up or down to see which one it is. If you want to run, if you run on the resolution that I run on, you shouldn't have too many problems. Now the next one is the scoreboard. So you'll just want to locate the scoreboard. Now, depending on what resolution you run on, as I said before, this will vary. I do have 2 different crosshairs. This one isn't correct. That should really be a different one, but I think that's the correct one for majority of monitors. If you're on 1280 times 720, I'm not too sure if many people do. That's one of them. And then the resolution that I run is 1280 times 600. I haven't done any other resolutions. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure you can just edit the XPOS and YPOS values. I'm pretty sure it's the XPOS values that needs to change. Not so much the YPOS, but this may vary. It's green for me. You can change the color by changing this, but if you want it green, then stick with this. So you'll just want to copy that, go into scoreboard, and you'll just want to go enter, and then yeah, I believe that's how you do it. And I think you just put it enter again, just so it's tidier or whatever. Pretty sure that should do it. Like I said before, if you're running in a different resolution, you may need to change the XPOS or YPOS values. Now that's all the files in UI that you need to edit. The next one is in the animation, and animation is in the scripts folder. So if you need help, you just go to the HUD and then go to scripts, and it's in Toon HUD animations. I could have put this in scripts again, but I felt as though for the sake of it making sense, I would put it in animations. So the only one that's for animation is Spy Animation. Pretty funny name. But you just go to the Toon HUD animations, you open that up, and you'll just want to look for HUD Spy Disguise. So if you go Control F, HUD Spy, yep, should come up, and this will be it. You want to just copy that, and then go right here, and then go paste it in. And it may look a bit off to start off with, but I'm very sure that it does do what it's meant to. Now the next one is in scripts. So this one will be in the HUD layout. So you'll just want to go into the HUD layout, and then you'll want to just go to HUD Demo Man Charge, and you'll notice, and you'll probably think, well, we've already done the Demo Man Charge, but we actually haven't, because it'll be somewhere else on the screen if we don't do this. So we gotta go to HUD Demo Man Charge, and then we just put in, just copy that, paste it, done. Now that is all the files that you need to edit. So if you've gotten this far, good on you. You've done something that took me probably ages to figure out. Now the main menu. So what you want to do is, for the main menu files, you want to go to you want to start off by going to materials, and you want to just drag and drop console in here. That basically gives the background of the HUD. So that gives the I can probably show you right here if it loads. Yeah, it basically gives you that. You can have it as the default or whatever, but if you want it exactly like mine, you'll just put that in there. The next one you want to do is you want to go to scripts, and you'll want to just put in chapter backgrounds, just so that it does give you the correct background. Now for resource, you'll just want to put in the game menu, just drag and drop right here, and you want to replace the file destination. And for the main menu override, you'll just go into UI and drop that right in there, and you'll want to replace the file destination. Done. Now for the VTF crosshairs, you'll just basically locate the VTF crosshairs by going to, or Toon HUD crosshairs by going to materials, VGUI, replay, thumbnails, Xhairs, and then you find it right here. So you'll probably just want to drag and drop these in. Xhair 0 is basically a blank crosshair, and 31 is the crosshair that Thalash has used in the past. So you'll just want to drag and drop those in there. Now, I have a custom crosshair. It uses all three of the available crosshairs. Now, you may choose to keep these on or off. If you want to keep them on, you probably won't want to do this next step. But if you want to turn them off now, or even if you want to do it later, you can. Now, you may think that if you want to turn the crosshairs off, I would have to change it for you and just disable the crosshairs, but that's not the case. So basically, you'll notice that there's two Xhairs, but they're not the same thing, because this one right here is a material file, while this one is the texture file. The texture file is the actual probably crosshair that it copies off, but the Xhair, the material file, is what gives it the code that says change the crosshair. So we'll just open that up. Unfortunately, you can't change the color of the crosshairs, so I'm sorry if you don't like the colors or the size, but you can change the crosshair. So if you want to turn all of these off or change it to a different number entirely, so if I want to change it to Xhair 25, for example, I would just do that and save as. But for the sake of this, we'll say that we want to turn these off. So we'll just go Xhair 0 and then go save as. The next one, we'll go to the next material file, open that up, backspace, put in 0, save it, and then the last one, and then put in 0. And that is pretty much it for the HUD. The next things that you may want to know is because I run on a Nvidia driver, and as I said before, my laptop isn't that good, you may want to open the Nvidia control panel up. Now, I don't have a ton of settings, as you can see here, but the thing that I do use is use my preference emphasizing to performance. It does lower down the graphics, as you can probably see by this little thing right here, compared to like putting it on quality. That's like not too bad, but I don't really notice it too much from time to time. It mainly affects the view models, but when you got transparent view models on, it doesn't really matter. So you'll just want to apply that if that's what you want. Another thing worth noting, if you go back to the HUD file and then go to scripts, HUD layout, depending on what dxlevel you're running on, or if you don't even like transparent view models, if you're running on dxlevel 8, you probably can't run on no, you can't you can't use transparent view models, unfortunately. But if you don't or if you don't like transparent view models, just change the ones right here to for visible and enabled to 0, and that should disable them. For the sake of this, I have it on because I like transparent view models. Another thing that I should probably mention is for Team Fortress 2, the set launch options, which you go by properties, set launch options. I use these ones. I've got minus novid, so there's no Valve logo at the start. It's in window with no border. I've also got the plus map underscore background preload room, so that it works with those comp view models. I run on dxlevel 9, so you'd want to get that by going minus dxlevel 90. Because it's already in there, I don't need to worry about that. So that's pretty much it, and you'll just want to launch up Team Fortress 2, and hopefully everything should be working. Okay, so it looks like everything's normal. Please know if you are using the comp view models with all the other commands, it may take a little longer to launch up than normal. So now that TF2 is loaded, I should probably show you the settings that I use. Keyboard should be fine. So my mouse, I use a mouse sensitivity of 3.86 with raw input on, and I have a DPI of 850. I use a Logitech G700S. That may be fast or slow depending on your preferences, but it's comfortable for me, so yeah. Audio, I have it around there, and music volume around there. Sound quality is high, 2 speakers, blah blah blah. I have it at high because I find audio is probably the most important thing for this game, hearing more than the graphics. Next, for video, as I've said, I run on a 1280 x 600 resolution, as you can probably see right here. May be questionable for you, but I believe that you get a little bit more view model on the sides, not so much at the top, so it's probably not the recommended resolution, as you may not see like soldiers bombing or that sort of thing. I know I kind of have that problem, but I appreciate having FOV on the sides. Besides that, that's pretty much all the important stuff. Another thing that I have is if you put it into the console exec bot, that'll enable the bot commands. I find that pretty useful when going on TR walkway, and we'll just test that everything's working. And as you can see right here, it looks like everything's working correctly, I believe. Probably watch the video over again if you've had a bit of a problem. You may not entirely like this, but I like it because well, it's my HUD. These, of course, isn't the best settings for TF2. I would never say that, but I've got a lot of settings that a lot of people do use, so it's quite useful. So that's pretty much the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video and or enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope even if you don't use this HUD, you found something out a little bit useful, and yeah, I'll see you guys all next time, hopefully. Alright, see you guys.